nearly 6,000 feet above the sea level, snuggled amidst snow-capped peaks of the Hindu Kush mountain range, the Chitral Valley lies in the extreme north of Pakistan. On the northwestern side of the Chitral Valley bordering Afghanistan lie the three magical valleys of Bombraith, Rambur and Beria, the homeland of the Kalasha or the Kalash people. The Kalasha, or the wearers of the black robe, are a Dardic people, whose origin and ancestry is enveloped in layers of mystery. While a legend says that the 5 soldiers of the legions of Alexander the Great settled in Chitral and perhaps are the progenitors of the Kalasha, the contemporary anthropologists have, however, found no genetic links to either Greek or Macedonian bloodlines. Kalasha may be the original inhabitants of their Shangri-La-like habitat. Kalasha, an umbrella term, describes their tribe, their pre-Islamic religion, and their language, the Kalasha Moan. The Kalashas have lived in peace and harmony amidst predominantly Muslim populations of Chitral for hundreds of years. According to their own accounts, they arrived in these valleys some 3,000 years ago and made these valleys their own home. They ruled over the Chitral Valley for around 200 years. Amongst their famous kings include the great Bola Singh and Rajavai. Today, the Kalash are one of the world's endangered indigenous minorities, with a population of under just 5,000 remaining. Kalasha are polytheistic, with a rich tapestry of deities and demigods comparable to the pre-Islamic Indo-Iranian tradition. The most striking feature of the Kalash's life is their religious festivals. Their festivals are held in accordance to the change in seasons. The Kalasha men mark their religious rituals by offering sacrifices of food at the religious sites and offering prayers, while women join them in colorful communal dancing. Music and dance hold a central key significance in Kalasha's cultural and religious identity. Music and dance are considered as means of reaching out to the spirits of their ancestors, the gods and goddesses. The Zoshi festival commences with a formal announcement from the priest, the Qazi or the Gadarak. The Gadarak sends a messenger to each house in the valley to inform them that the Zoshi would begin the next day. According to the Kalasha faith, the spring season is a divine gift that is just as much valued as coveted and thanked for. Zoshi is the festival of spring, held to express gratitude and pay homage to the deities for the bounties that spring season is hoped to usher. The Zoshi is simultaneously held in 3 Kalasha valleys, Bombraith, Rambur and Beria, between 13th to the 18th of May each year. The Kalashas begin the festival with a ritual cleansing of the houses, alleys and open yards. women prepare their vibrant festive outfits, while the men and women adorn their hats with colorful feathers. The first day of Joshi dawns with the ritual of Posh Bai. Throughout the day, pre-puberty boys and girls would gather yellow wildflowers from across their valleys and take them to the sacred site of Jashtakan. They would spend the entire night meticulously decorating the religious sites with flowers, and as soon as the Jashtakan is transformed into a riot of wildflowers, the drum begins to beat, and the Kalashas assemble to perform their first ritual dance. The dawn breaks with the aroma of wheat and walnut breads being baked on makeshift stoves for breakfast. This is the Gul Parik Shiv Shah ceremony, a kind of collective baking and dining that is deemed to bring peace and joy to the spirits of the deceased Kalasha elders. The cycle of life and death would remain seamless and juxtaposed across the festival of Joshi, which itself symbolizes rebirth and continuity of life. Kalasha men would gather for an exclusively men's ritual, the Sheng Mov. The men would cleanse and purify the sacred spaces by smoking walnut leaves. Special prayers are also made to the deities, followed by the sprinkling of walnut leaves to mark the sanctity of the space. At midnight, a select group of Kalasha elders would gather at the sacred site of Charsu to observe the ritual of Masharik Saras, to purify it and ward off any evil presences. They would burn juniper fire, make wheat and walnut bread, would milk a goat. The pilgrims would consume the milk with the bread, while the rest of the milk would be sprinkled around the site. At dawn, the Gadarak, Qazi or the priest, would instruct the Kalasha boys to beat the drum to announce the completion of last night's ritual. the Kalashas would begin to bake breads at home. The freshly baked breads would be distributed amongst the relatives and neighbors. This would bring them prosperity and abundance in the new year. In Bombret Valley, the Kalasha girls and women would visit their relatives and friends' houses along with their cattle yards to make the ritual of Chipa Pipi. They would be welcomed and served with fresh milk. The spirit of Joshi is marked by inclusiveness and shared joy. The day would lead to the beginning of what is known as the Chotak Joshi, or the smaller Joshi, in the Kalasha valleys across the Rambur, Bombret and the Berea. It commences in Rambur from around May the 13th, followed by Bombret on May the 15th and in Berea on May the 17th. The Kalasha would arrive at the Charsu, the designated sacred spaces for ritual dancing. The dance begins at a slower pace in a trance-like movement. The slow dance is called Daraya Lek, which slowly acquires momentum to transform into a fast-paced dance, the Chahnat. Women would form a kind of human chain to perform the Charnet. With the completion of Chotak Joshi, or the minor Joshi, the scene is set for the big or Guna Joshi. This would be celebrated in Rambur Valley on the 14th of May and in Bombret on the 16th of May, whereas the Berea are going to mark it by the 18th of May. The Kalasha would form processions, walking through the twisted alleys, waving walnut leaves, chanting primordial hymns, and arrive at the Charsu. The spellbinding beat of the local drum is the clarion call for the community to assemble at Charsu, the sacred designated dancing spot. As if in a rapture of ecstasy, girls, boys, women and men must follow the drum beat up and down the twisted alleys in groups and make a dazzling display of their joyous assembly under the chersu. The Zoshi festival is also a matchmaking event for the consenting male and female adults, who would propose each other for marriage and enter into matrimony. Perhaps the most important ritual at the festival of Zoshi is the Gandoli. This is a series of prayers offered by the Kalasha women and men. They hold walnut leaves and branches, waving them in a certain direction. The pilgrims pay tributes to their elders by singing eulogies, glorifying their deeds and lives. The men would later assemble at the sacred spot of Malosh to observe the Duvan ritual, which includes taking charge of the mutually collected milk, bread and cheese, which is later distributed amongst the community. Prayers are offered for the livestock, crops and health. Kalashas would conclude the segment by selecting a group of their community members who would undertake the voluntary coordination for making religious offerings for the year. The selection process is called Rowai. A week after the Joshi, Kailashas would observe another ritual, the ceremony of March Vaki Zoshi. This is a Thanksgiving activity for the ripening of mulberry fruit. Kailasha men milk the goats. They would boil the collected milk and offer a goat in sacrifice. And the next morning, the Kailashas would assemble at the Charsu, waving walnut branches. The Gadarik, or the priest, would offer a special prayer for the wheat crop by sprinkling water on the fields. The ritual would be concluded with customary dance and music. The festival of Joshi has come to its end. Next year it would be celebrated again with the same reverence and gusto. However, the critical question that Kailashas must contend with is for how long this unique cultural expression would continue in the face of their diminishing numbers. The coerced conversions into dominant religions, and indeed the youth leaving their habitat in search of better economic pursuits that are few and far between in their own homeland. The Kailash elders haven't lost their hopes against these despairing odds. They've maintained their faith. They believe if the world around them holds their hand in helping them make their environment more enabling, more accommodating, more sustainable, their culture and wisdom tradition would prevail.